what we're really trying to do is look at what we've classed as relational performance, so, but particularly in festivals. So we're looking at performance that engages audiences, that somehow they have to interact with it to make it happen. So we're making a piece of work with Urban Angels Circus. The piece of work is made, and then we're touring it around to 3 different festivals to see if those 3 different festivals shape the performance differently, or if different audiences interact with it differently.
The performance is a piece of aerial work. So what we actually do is there's 4 performers, and we take the 4 performers and what we call a small aerial rig. Although small doesn't exactly say it right, because it's 16 feet tall by 15 feet wide, so sighting it in the festival is quite interesting. People are invited into this environment, so we build a mini environment in the festival site. It's very luxurious and not like a festival site is. So festivals are mud and beer and dirt and music and so on, and our piece is white and gold and elegant and beautiful, and the festival goers are invited into this very different kind of space.
There's kind of like a backstory, so when people see it, they'll come up to you and go, what's this, what's happening? And we remain in character throughout, and we may reveal bits of our kind of backstory. And the backstory is that this boudoir that we're all, this environment that we're in, this environment within the environment of the festival, is the boudoir, the heavenly court of Madame Fantasist. So people kind of assume, well, one of you is Madame Fantasist, but no, none of us are actually Madame Fantasist. It's almost like Waiting for Godot. It's that sense of we've been in this opulent environment, but we're getting kind of a little bit jaded because we've been waiting for her for 20 years. And in the meantime, what we're doing is we're trying to elicit secrets from the people who come to this environment, and we invite them in, and so they're lying down on all these cushions, but we have rules. You have to take your wellies off. We feed them grapes and we feed them chocolates, and we have conversations with them, and we dress them up like we are, and we get them into the rig, which is extremely beautiful. It's all dressed with silver and gold and white decor around the outside.
When the performance is happening and the audience are being engaged, and there might be some people watching, but there might be some people on the rig as well interacting with the characters, I'll watch very closely. I'm taking notes of what's happening, and then as somebody leaves the space, because drawing them into the space but also getting them to leave the space is quite important. When they've left the space, I will gauge whether they might be interested in being interviewed. So I will generally sidle up to them, have a chat with them, ask them, you know, whether they enjoyed it, and then they'll genuinely be very interested in what's going on.
Like cool and creative, but I don't understand that the characters actually had roles to play, so when she got angry at me, I took it a bit personally.
I have somebody doing that documentation for me, and they just sit to one side and we do a 10-15 minute interview, asking them some questions, some initial feedback, what they thought, what they liked, why they participated, and one of the critical questions is, would they participate in the same way if they saw this on their local high street? And we get some really interesting answers out of that. Many of them say, yep, absolutely, yes I would. But the people that have been doing the interviews for me doubt the authenticity of that answer. They're in the festival mode, they're really up for anything, they're game for a laugh, they're game for trying anything out. But I think the real response might be that they would run the other way if they saw that in their high street.
Festival environments are so chaotic. What happens if it's chucking down with rain? What happens if the person who comes in has had a few too many beers? What's the difference between working with adults and children in that kind of context as well? What kind of material can you make in advance? So the way that we've worked it is that we've kind of got a framework for it. We've also got, the 4 performers have individual short solo pieces that they can put in, which last between 10 seconds and a minute. So there's some aerial solo work, and there are various other little bits of dialogue. I have some tiny little books which I hide in my cleavage, and I take them out and they have little messages in that I offer to people, and then they get to take them away as a kind of a souvenir or a memento of the performance piece.
In rehearsals for this, we'd go in, we'd have a discussion, we'd go into trying out a bit of an idea, and then we'd go back to discussion, and for me, that kind of interrupted the flow of energy a little bit. But the discussion at the same time was very productive. It was just a different way of working. I've learned that discussion is useful. You know, it took me out of my comfort zone, and that's a good thing. That is a really good thing, to be taken out of where you're comfortable. And I felt like I wasn't producing enough. I didn't have enough to say, yeah, we've got this, this, this and this, and it might be improvised, and it might change, we might change the order of those bits of performative stuff that we've got, but it was all kind of really, it's like weaving yoghurt, you know.
There are a few different outcomes on this project, but one of the things is that the festival organisers and festival management have been very interested in what we've been doing, in this kind of performance that allows people to enter in, that isn't just spectatorship from a distance. So in terms of developing their festival sites and also having something that engages with academia and the festival context, I think has been fascinating, and we've been offered lots of festivals to do. So when we kind of started to put feelers out, lots and lots of people were very interested in us coming and working with them.
I think what Urban Angels have learned as a company is that what they've been doing, and doing very well for many, many years, is actually of great academic interest. And I don't think that's necessarily been recognised before now. I don't think Urban Angels have necessarily been aware that what they do and what they do naturally and what they have been doing for many, many years is actually worthy of this kind of attention. And so now that that's been really placed in the frame, I think Deborah's got a lot more confidence in what she's been putting out there for many, many years, and we've learnt from working with Urban Angels, and Urban Angels have learnt from working with us. So yeah, it's that sense of really validating this work and putting the time and the money and the commitment into understanding it further.